Hey everyone, something a little bit different on the channel today. I'm introducing you to Rafael from Wealthy Expat. He's going to tell us all about how you can potentially save, well, not potentially, save a lot of money on your taxes through cryptocurrency in making a company, perhaps in Dubai. So Rafael runs a YouTube channel called The Wealthy Expat, but he's also very knowledgeable when it comes down to citizenships and tax saving, tax planning. So I'd like to introduce you to him. How are you doing today, Rafael?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Alex. I love crypto and I love helping crypto investors pay 0% tax legally. Obviously, with crypto, there's a lot of regulations. If you're trading constantly, you're paying tax on every single transaction. It really hurts you when coins go down. You can't really get those losses in order to lower your taxes. So it's really all a mess, and governments are trying to get more money out of us crypto investors. So I try to help every single crypto investor out there, whether you're worth hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, millions, hundreds of millions. We have people from all over the world, even people that are almost at the $1 billion mark. We help you lower your taxes legally, and we'll talk about all the strategies that crypto investors can use, whether you're from the US, from the UK, from anywhere in the world, that you can lower your taxes absolutely legally on all your crypto.
So Rafael, you're obviously you're based in Dubai currently. I know it's one of the hotspots at the moment as far as tax havens, legal tax havens are concerned. And I know cryptocurrency is one of the industries you specialize in. Is that correct?
That's correct. So mainly we target crypto investors because crypto is the booming industry right now. People are making millions and they're paying a lot of tax in that. And it's one of those industries that's really hard to reduce taxes. So for example, if you're making money with earned income, consulting, marketing, there's easier strategies to lower your taxes. When it comes to crypto, crypto is almost always taxed at the personal level. So you yourself as a person pay tax on whatever you make. And typically the rates are really high because personal income rates, capital gains rates, if you're doing it very quickly, if you're doing technical analysis and trading constantly, then you're paying a lot of money in tax. So typically that's what we focus on. And there's a lot of strategies to do this. Some of them are a little bit more hardcore. Like for example, US citizens, they might need to renounce their citizenship. When it comes to citizens from anywhere else in the world, like the UK, it's mainly about finding a place that is crypto friendly and accepts crypto as a way of not taxing it and as a way of actually using it. So the place that we typically recommend is Dubai, just because you can use your crypto for anything you like. Let's say you don't want to use a bank account. I have some clients, all they have is a MetaMask wallet, some other wallets that they stake with, and they don't want to use a bank account. Sure. You can live with just your crypto. Yes, there are some things that you need a card, you need a bank account, but you need it minimally. Let's say you want to buy a home, you can buy it in crypto. Let's say you want to buy a car. I know, for example, Carl the Moon, you know him as well, very famous YouTube in crypto. He bought a Bugatti in Ethereum, a $1 million car, everything in Ethereum. I have some friends that have bought Ferraris in Bitcoin, USDT, whatever it is. So you can live off that. You can also cash it out for cash and then just use the cash to live your regular life. So you never really need to touch a bank account in Dubai. Plus, all these transactions are completely tax-free.
So that's what we like. Dubai is very welcoming to cryptocurrency. It sounds like they're very friendly, much more friendlier than where I live in the UK, by the fact that you can potentially buy a property or even a vehicle using your cryptocurrency. So it's no wonder why you're there and why you're advising other people to go there. So that's really interesting. And in terms of I completely get what you're saying, Rafael, with, you know, whenever you're trading here, if you're buying cryptocurrencies, you're selling cryptocurrencies, it's in most cases, in most countries, if you're not protected by sort of a tax haven, if you like, legally, always legally, you're always subject to tax implications. So could you tell me more about how a company formation would work and how it works? If someone like myself, and obviously I've been in crypto for a while, I'm making profits in crypto. If I wanted to take advantage of the tax system in Dubai, how would one go about that? Where would you start?
Got it. So let's say you're residing in the UK, you're a UK tax resident, UK citizen, you want to move somewhere to pay 0% tax. The process, it needs to be done properly on both sides, because you can't just look at the place where you're going. You need to look at the place where you're coming from. Sure. So for example, let's say you want to set up in Dubai. The easiest place to get a residence permit, eventually get tax residence, be able to use your crypto, be able to get an ID, is by starting a company in Dubai. So you start essentially a free zone company. Free zone companies pay 0% tax. You might have seen the news of the 9% corporate tax. That 9% only applies to companies that are in the mainland of UAE. selling to UAE customers. They don't apply to free zones. That's typically
Yeah.
why
So just to be clear to anyone watching, because I saw that news and I was a bit like, oh, that's a big red flag. But actually, I think when you read the fine print, when you take away from the actual headline news, it was actually quite clear that the only time that you're going to pay that 9% corporation tax is if you're providing goods or services to the Emiratis, I think. Is that right?
To UAE residents
UAE.
as a UAE mainland company.
Sure.
Yes.
So it
if you're
doesn't
doing
actually apply to free zone companies.
And not at all, especially if you're doing blockchain activity like crypto trading, anything like that. Absolutely not.
Awesome.
That does not apply.
Awesome. And are there any limitations in terms of what you can do within crypto? Because obviously cryptocurrency is becoming a bigger and bigger industry all the time. There's different subcategories within cryptocurrency. Obviously there's trading, there's people are doing funds, people are doing DeFi, people are doing all different types of things within the cryptocurrency space. Does going to Dubai and incorporating there incorporate anything to do with crypto, or are there certain areas where there's gray areas or certain areas where they're not so tax friendly about?
There's not that much regulation when it comes to crypto. So they don't categorize it as, let's say if you're doing staking, yield farming, trading, they don't really have these categories.
They just encompass it into crypto, essentially.
Exactly. And typically what we recommend, depending on what you want to do, because it depends on the client. That's why I like to talk to clients one-on-one. And what happens is, let's say a client doesn't want to have a bank account. They just want to be able to live in Dubai, have an ID, buy property, enjoy their money, live a luxury lifestyle, and they don't care about having a bank account. Then you can actually get a crypto license. And on your license on your company, it can say crypto. But if you're looking to get a bank account, you're going to have trouble at the bank getting a crypto bank account. So what we typically recommend is to get, let's say, a digital marketing license or an investment license. So you could just get a license on your company, a free zone company that says investment. With an investment license,
in addition to having a crypto license, or that would be instead of, and you can be in crypto anyway.
That would be instead of, and you can be in crypto anywhere, because there's no regulation that you need a license to do it. And then with that investment license, you get the ID, you get the bank account, you get everything, and then you can cash out your crypto. What we typically recommend, because there's two processes, there's the UAE government side, and then there's the banking. And the banking is the annoying one. When it comes to the banking, you don't want to tell the bank that you're doing crypto. As you know, with HSBC and all these other banks that have closed down accounts for people, banks tend to not like crypto. So we typically we get the bank account and then we use it for crypto later on. And it's possible. Just in the beginning, I wouldn't recommend saying it. That's just my personal experience.
Because I know within the UK about a year ago now, Binance were in the headlines that they basically stopped allowing deposits into UK banks, and banks vice versa. So there's been problems there. But you from your experience, Rafael, you're saying that the banks are more friendly, let's say, to these kind of transactions, providing that you have the right kind of licenses in place when you incorporate. So it's planning, basically. Okay.
And Dubai likes big money. So if you're sending $100,000, $200,000 a month, potentially $1 million, 10 million, I have clients that are worth $500 million, right? $500 million in funds, and they want to send $1 million a week, $2 million a week. As long as you tell the bank beforehand, they'll be very happy to take those amounts, because it looks really good on their part. It looks really good on the relationship manager that opened your account, that you're depositing $10 million. It looks really good on their side. So just make sure that you have a good relationship with the bank and you tell them, I'm going to deposit $10, $20 million. It'll be welcomed. That's for sure.
Okay, interesting. So there's going to be a lot of people watching here that maybe don't have millions and millions. Maybe some people have thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands, part of their portfolio that they're looking to protect from tax. What would you say, Rafael, is kind of like the entry point where it can become financially viable to move over to Dubai? Because obviously, I mean, if you've got maybe a couple of thousand, probably not quite worth potentially looking to seek, tax advantages in countries, for example, like the UAE. Where would you say kind of the level is where it makes sense to really consider coming to somebody like yourself and talking about tax planning where cryptocurrency is concerned?
Definitely. There's two different ways to look at it. So what I typically recommend is look at your net worth. And if your net worth is above $250,000 US, so 250,000, definitely look at doing it, because now you're hitting the point where you're almost a half millionaire, you're almost a millionaire later on, specifically with Bitcoin, all these cryptocurrencies growing. Or you're paying tax every year that exceeds the cost of you moving abroad to a place like Dubai. So for example, the total cost will be around, let's say with all fees included, let's look at $25,000, right? Including your flight ticket, including the hassle, maybe some taxi rides that you're,
Sure.
so let's say $25,000. If you're spending more than $25,000 or like 20,000 British pounds per year in taxes, you're basically burning that money.
Yeah.
Where instead you could use that money to have a company, to have your setup in Dubai, and then be also protected from any further taxes. So if it passes that point, it's worth it.
And I guess, Rafael, where we are in the markets right now, I mean, the markets are down, and obviously smart investors are starting to nibble away back at the buying the dip territory as we see Bitcoin potentially come down. I know from a technical point of view, we're still looking at about 28, 29,000, potentially as low as 20. I mean, anybody that's kind of at that level where they're paying at least 25K in taxes may want to consider seeking advice for the future, forward planning, because obviously, as we know, crypto can move upwards and the profits are made in bear markets, really. The wealth is created in bear markets. I know right now I'm accumulating. So this is why I'm talking to you now, because obviously you're taxed on profits ultimately. So if we're going to be making lots of profits, hopefully in the next 12, 18 months, depending on what the markets do, it's a good time, I guess, to look into this. So I guess it's about planning and timing as well.
Definitely. The best time to get out of your home country or high tax country and move to a better place is when crypto is down. Because one, there's not that many people doing it right now. So there's not that many people moving and the processes move faster. The country isn't really looking at taxing too many people if the market is down, because they know that everybody's sort of making losses and losing those gains. That's really the best time to get out. Plus, a lot of countries charge an exit tax. So for example, for my fellow Americans, because I am an American citizen from Puerto Rico, if you're going to renounce US citizenship, which you need in order to lower your capital gains tax to 0, unless you want to move to Puerto Rico. If you move to Puerto Rico, that's 0% tax. If not, you want to renounce your citizenship, the exit tax applies on people that are worth more than $2 million. So if you're at, let's say 2.1 million, and then we had a giant dip and now you're worth 700,000, 800,000, get out now. So that when you're back at that 2 million, you don't need to pay any exit tax.
Got you.
In countries like, for example, Canada, they have an automatic exit tax where whatever you're worth, you pay exit tax. So if you're worth $1 million or maybe 500,000 or whatever, and now you're worth 100, 200 because all your coins got crashed, leave now and then appreciate the gains later on.
Makes sense. So I know that most people watching this video are going to be either in the UK, the States, or Canada. Can you just cover each one of those 3 countries briefly, and maybe any similarities you see with other countries in terms of what it means for them in terms of coming over? Because I know from the UK standpoint, there's certain, like you said at the beginning of our chat, there's going to be things to consider on both sides. So from my understanding, Rafael, you can move to Dubai, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you can be a tax resident there and you only need to visit, I think, twice a year, be there 24 hours twice a year in order to be a resident, basically, of the UAE. But however, in your own jurisdiction where you live, for example, I'm in the UK, I think there's things you need to consider in order to not pay tax in my country. So could you just explain briefly how that works in terms of being in the UK and perhaps being in the US as well?
Yeah, the tax residence is not one time every 6 months. That is for the residence visa. For tax residence, you need to be here 180 days a year or more. So
you have
people
to be
often
in the UAE 180 days or more.
That's correct. If you want tax residence. So typically a lot of countries, like for example, Canada, they're very aggressive and they want you to have another tax residence somewhere. So I typically recommend people, if you're getting out of Canada, for example, just to get out of your own country, you needed that thing in your arm. Like they're really aggressive and strict when it comes to people leaving the country. So what you want to do whenever you leave, you want to get tax residence somewhere else just to make sure that they don't keep taxing you. So stay 180 days. If you come from a country like the UK is more strict on how much time you spend in the UK. So for example, if somebody goes and let's say the year already started, right? So this doesn't really apply, but let's say the year starts and you spend less than 16 days in the whole tax year in UK. So you spend 2 weeks in the UK during that tax year. And the rest of the time you spend it somewhere else, you're non-tax resident automatically of the UK because you didn't live enough time in the UK. So the UK is one of the most straightforward tax systems out there, to be honest. It's very much based on time spent. So if you spend 183, you're tax resident. You spend 90 and you live 30 of those in your own home, you're tax resident. You spend 30, but you didn't work during those 30 days, you're not tax resident. You spend less than 16, you're not tax resident. So it's very much based on time. And I love the UK tax system for that. Obviously, it's high taxes and everything. But if you're getting out, just look at how much time you spent and then make sure that you moved somewhere fully. Don't just pretend to move and then leave everything behind and then come back at some point. Like, actually move out so they know that you've moved. When it comes to the US, it's taxed on citizenship. So we pay tax, capital gains, everything, no matter where we go all over the world, because the US is the best country in the world. Therefore, you need to pay tax on your citizenship. So when you go abroad to a place like Dubai, it doesn't really help you unless you renounce your citizenship. So I actually bought another passport. I bought another citizenship from St. Kitts and Nevis. And with that, I'm renouncing my US passport. Or you can move to Puerto Rico, which I typically don't recommend. I am from Puerto Rico and I lived there 18 years. I tend to not recommend it for a lot of investors. Yes, it's crypto friendly, but there's also a lot of crime and a lot of poverty there. And you probably don't want to live surrounded by that. But those are typically the three tax systems. I would say out of those three, the US is the worst one to get out of because you need to renounce your citizenship. Canada would be the second one because they're so vague and they don't have a strict day requirement. It's more about become tax resident somewhere else and maybe we'll let you leave, but you need to cut out everything you have, like literally everything. Like if you have a dog in Canada, you need to take it because it could be tied back to you. And the UK is more based on how much time you spend.
And how would it work with assets? So for example, someone in the UK, for example, that has assets in the UK, for example, they may have investment property. For example, like myself, I have a couple of buy-to-lets, like properties I rent out. How would that come into play if you wanted to move to the UAE? And I guess you don't have to renounce your citizenship, but from a tax point of view.
No, you don't need to renounce your passport at all as a UK citizen or Canadian. What I would advise you to do is if you have any property in the UK, you rent them out constantly for a long-term time. So for example, you don't have a property that is empty because that then can be categorized as your permanent abode.
Okay.
Basically the place where you can always go back to and where your stuff is and where your computer is. You don't want to have that. You want to have somebody renting it out
long-term. Yeah.
Correct. And you want to have a home in another country. So if you're moving to Dubai, you don't want to stay in a hotel and then have a home back in the UK. You want to have a home in Dubai, buy a property, rent a property long-term. And then if you have any property back home, rent it out to somebody constantly. And that would work.
And obviously, Dubai, I mean, I've been to Dubai many times now, actually, probably 4 or 5 times. And I love it personally. I mean, I'm a family man. And where I stay in Dubai, I think it's where you're living, Rafael, JBR, Jumeirah Beach Residence. However, I am aware that, you know, it might not be everyone's taste because different countries, you know, are for different people. Dubai is very luxurious. It can be family oriented. You've got the beach, you've got the city. Great. However, maybe for whatever reason, some people don't want to travel that far or they've got family nearby. And for whatever reason, are there any other recommendations you would have, Rafael, in terms of what could be a good tax location where cryptocurrency is concerned for tax planning and paying 0% tax on?
There's a few that I tend to recommend if somebody doesn't want to go to Dubai or their family doesn't want to go, things like that, or it's too hot or it's too Muslim or anything you want to put it there. So for example, typically the one that we recommend is Portugal, but you want to be very careful with Portugal. A lot of people promote Portugal as a place that is completely tax-free on crypto and crypto is not taxed and it's not written on the tax code. Therefore, you don't pay taxes. Technically, yes. But let's say that you're a technical analyst or a technical analyst, you're trading constantly crypto, you're buying and selling on the same day, you're staking, you're yield farming every single day. That's not really crypto investing. That's work that you're doing. That's self-employment work with crypto. Therefore, it can be taxed as personal income rates, which are 30, 35%, even higher. So what you want to do is if you're buying and selling long-term, yes, Portugal can work because crypto is not taxed in that way. It's not considered a capital gain or it's not written in the tax code the proper way to be taxed, but that's changing. They're catching on to it. They know a lot of people are moving to Portugal, living in Portugal long-term. And really what they're doing is not really crypto investing. They're just doing trading every day and they're doing work in crypto. So then you would pay tax on that. And also Portugal has what's called Portuguese sourced income, where If your income is sourced from Portugal, then it's even more likely to get taxed. So if you're living in Portugal and you're the source of your income, then technically it's Portuguese sourced income, even if a Portuguese person or you're not sourcing the income from Portugal. So definitely something to be aware about. Yes, Portugal is great. They have a golden visa program, which gives you citizenship after 5 years, which I really like. They have the D7 visa, which is a retirement visa, but anybody can retire on it regardless of the age. And you can also get citizenship at 5 years. It's very attractive for UK investors and US investors because it's on the same level of a passport. So you can get a really good travel document, maybe renounce US citizenship, maybe protect yourself against the UK, things like that. But do keep that in mind. There are other places, like, for example, the Cayman Islands, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts. These are countries that are completely tax-free, but they're very remote and they're just islands. So for example, Cayman Islands is a very popular place for very wealthy investors. So you deposit $2.4 million, you get a property and you get permanent residence in the Cayman Islands. It's a UK territory. So also UK citizens can move very easily to the Cayman Islands, pay 0% capital gains, 0% tax on crypto, 0% tax on everything, but it's just a couple of islands. And I don't really see many people wanting to live on a couple of islands for more than 6 months a year. So you do need to think about where you're going. If it's really the lifestyle that you're looking for, people don't want to move to Dubai, maybe move to a place like Portugal, but do keep in mind that it might be categorized as Portuguese sourced income or other places that are more for long-term traders. So if you're watching this and you're an EU citizen, Malta might be a good option because Malta doesn't tax long-term crypto gains. If you do short-term trading or daily trading, that's going to get taxed as personal income around 30, 35%. So every country has their own laws regarding long-term, short-term, sourced from the country. So make sure you look at them. But there's definitely about 6 to 10 countries around the world that are livable. We're not going to third world war-ridden countries. Obviously, El Salvador is getting up there in the list.
I was going to ask you about El Salvador making headlines recently. Is that becoming a potential destination for cryptocurrency investors and traders?
I'm talking to a few people in El Salvador. They're living in the Bitcoin Beach area. They're saying it's getting there. There's still a lot of crime. There's still a lot of kidnappings, a lot of bad things going on. And it's not a good place to be for a family if they want to be safe and they want to feel protected and everything. But it's getting there. Right? There were a lot of countries like, for example, Dubai and the UAE 50 years ago, it was absolutely nothing. It was just one road with a desert on it.
Yeah.
And crazy. Salvador in 20 years could be the Singapore of Latin America. Yeah. Just because Bitcoin appreciates so much and they hold so much of it. So it could get to that point.
Yeah. Could be very interesting for them holding Bitcoin as a reserve currency. Rafael, that was really interesting. I'm sure that both of our audience would have got a lot of value out of this, whether they're considering it now or potentially in the near future. If people want to get in touch and learn more, I take it they can message you. I'll make sure that your YouTube channel's down below because, like myself, you're also a YouTuber. Is there a way they can get in touch with you to book a call or anything like that as well?
Definitely. So if you go to Wealthy Expat Call, CALL.com, you can book a call directly with me. I do one-on-one calls with every single client to analyze their particular situation, see if I can help them. Because there are some people that we can't really help. Maybe your wife doesn't want to move out of the UK and you want to move, probably not going to work. You're going to have to move with her. So I tell you the truth and I help you with all the process. And obviously you can check me out on YouTube, Wealthy Expat, and check it out there. And I know, Alex, you have Marzell Money, your cryptocurrency YouTube, if you can talk a little bit about it and see how people can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So well, that's my Twitter. If you want to find me on Twitter, it's at Marzell Money, YouTube, Marzell Money. You can easily find me by typing in Marzell Money. If you type in Ethereum, I should be one of the top people there because that's actually the main currency I talk about, but Bitcoin, altcoins, and all that good stuff there. So yeah, it's been a pleasure to have you on my channel, and I understand I'm going to be on your channel. So hopefully we would have educated the audience together, and anyone considering moving abroad, whether it's UAE or perhaps Portugal or indeed Bitcoin Beach, they're going to get plenty of value from this. So yeah, great chatting. And I guess to the audience there, if you enjoyed it, just tap that like and share it with anyone that may be interested. And yeah, thanks so much, Rafael.
Thank you, Alex. Let us know in the comments if you have absolutely any questions. Subscribe to our channels. We'll see you on the next one.
Take care.